Thank you very much, Ellen. And ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you very much, CTO and the university for the lunch. We've enjoyed ourselves, and I'm sure we are here this afternoon just to stimulate our minds, and particularly our theme of adopt, innovate, and evolve is very important for this particular season, considering what we've gone through. So what I will do, I will just focus on the role of HR in the transformation process. And just to indicate what do we really need by, what do we really understand by transformation, because it's taking place all the time. And basically, I will look at the life cycle of a butterfly. Starts from an egg, becomes the larva, the pupa, and eventually you get a beautiful butterfly. But there is a lot of activity that goes on inside in the process. And so effective transformation for business is actually like we are changing from one form to another. And I read about the bubonic plague during the pandemic period. And I realized the challenges that were going on at that time are the same challenges we were encountering. In fact, mental health was a very big issue, only that at that particular time, the society did not understand. So the people who had lost a lot of their relatives, their families, that lost their livelihoods, and felt that there is nothing else remaining. So they went to the streets and started singing and started dancing. And those were actually the pockets of population that survived. And they adopted and they evolved and actually started moving forward. So in terms of employees, we ask ourselves, why should employees be going through transformation? Just to mention that this is something that is natural. It takes place all the time. It's not something we can stop. It's at the place of work, as an individual, we are going through transformation in our lives from day to day, in our day-to-day interactions, even from morning. I'm sure you've gone through a number of transformations today because you get ideas, you start thinking differently, you start seeing things differently. But I want to focus on 3 transformations in the history of business. And I'm just looking at from the time Vasco da Gama and the Portuguese went around, they started exploring the seas. At that particular time, before that time, people viewed the world as a very, very big place, that it is vast. You cannot reach the ends of it. But that particular time, people started realizing, oh, the world is not as big as we thought. And actually, the world started shrinking from being a very large place to a medium place. And that particular time, the focus was on getting raw materials from one place to another. You carry logs, you carry things to go and process. So it was carrying from one place to another, basically. And the thinking was just for a few people who could think and bring ideas. Everybody else was supposed to follow orders. This is really when we started thinking the world is smaller, but the number of people that were entrusted to think and be creative was much smaller. It was everybody else was supposed to provide labor and they were supposed to follow orders. That's what I call globalization 1.0. Then we came to the next one, globalization 2.0. That is when the world started shrinking from being medium to small. This particular time, the focus on business was on integration, creating multinational companies. There were companies that were covering the whole of a continent. And the whole focus was to identify raw materials and deliver the raw materials in order to produce basic products. And in this particular time, the number of employees expected to think became bigger. Because companies started identifying who can be the regional manager. You could be the regional manager in charge of Europe and Asia. And then you had a team, you are competing with a team from the Caribbean. You're competing with a team from South America. So what would happen is, because you want to be productive, you start thinking with your team. You start thinking, how do we become profitable? How do we win favor with the headquarters? So that is when the number of people increased, people who are expected now to be creative, to be thinking. Now, we go to the next one, which is up to now. Then there was disruption, the ICT disruption. That is when the world shrunk from being small to tiny. And this particular time, the focus became individuals. A business cannot succeed now if we do not focus on the individual. And in this particular time, employer-employee relationship is more of a partnership. And this is really where we are. In our day-to-day interaction with our employees, it's more of creativity. It's what they bring to the table that will make a difference. It is more of partnership. And this particular time, we have social influencers. People who can say something and change. And actually, even in terms of election time, you might have 5 people who have a huge following that if every politician will want their endorsement, because endorsement means they will have a big influence. And this is really where we are. We are focusing now on individuals. We are focusing on individuals being able to make a difference. And then we ask ourselves that as a corporate entity, so why should HR be involved in the transformation of the business? It's because the idea